Okay, this is.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Codess.Cafe. So, today we have here with us Manika, who has previously done internship at JPMC Glasgow. So, welcome, Manika. Over to you. Can we have a brief introduction of your?
Hi, Prakriti. Thank you for the lovely welcome. Hi, everyone, whoever is listening. I'm Manika Jain, and I'm currently a final year undergrad student at Delhi Technological University, based in India. And I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's in electrical engineering and my minors in computer science engineering. So I was a summer analyst, a former summer analyst at JP Morgan Chase in their Glasgow office. And yeah, I think I'll be here answering your questions and whatever questions you have for me. Hopefully, I answer all of them.
So, thank you, Manika, for such a beautiful introduction. So, over to the questions. So,
Right.
Manika, can you tell us about the application process of JPMC Glasgow and like what was like how did you apply and how did you get to know about the opportunity?
Right. So I think during my time there used to be a hackathon called Code for Good. I think it still happens around in India. Basically, Code for Good is like a series of hackathon that JPMC conducts, and you get to connect with JPMC mentors and work with the non-profit organizations and work on some very interesting problem statements over the course of 24 hours. Come up with solutions, and I think that was one of the most turning points for me because I participated in that hackathon and I learned about a lot of opportunities within JPMC and out of JPMC within different offices across JPMC. So I think that was a leading point for me. And I think post that hackathon, I was invited for for a coding assessment. Basically, based on my performance in the hackathon, your mentors basically recommend to the recruitment committee like whether they would like to have you as an intern or as a full time person in their office. So I think I got the coding assessment, and eventually after solving that, so even before getting participated into the hackathon, you have like an assessment to get into the hackathon as well. So that also has some coding questions, some aptitude based questions, and once you proceed from that, you get invited to an interview with JPMC. So basically, interview with JPMC is called like an assessment center, and assessment center is comprising of like three different types of interviews. Basically, you have technical rounds, you have behavioral rounds, and then you have the final round with the manager or like the most senior person in the firm. So that is like a somewhat like a holistic in a gist of what happens in JPMC, but definitely we can dive into more detail of how the process works.
Cool. So this seems a little uh, tiresome process. So,
Right.
so do you want to give a gist of what exactly, like, how was the interview process? How many rounds did you have, and all the process and the application process you underwent?
Right. So I think like I said, Code for Goals was definitely a standing point for me because I got recommended by my mentor to within the position for JPMC. So I think that was definitely there. And other than that, I definitely applied on the portal for just like everybody does. There was an opening, and we applied to it. I think there were three locations that were open during my time. That was Glasgow, Bournemouth, and London. And I applied for the Glasgow position, and it was a very straightforward application. You fill out your achievements, you fill out your basic details about yourself, your CV, your cover letter, and everything. And if they like your profile, if they think you're a good fit for them, they definitely invite you to a coding assessment, and eventually once you clear the coding assessment, they invite you to an interview. So in a coding assessment, they ask at least lead code medium questions, and eventually once you proceed from that round, you get invited to an interview round. So in the interview round, like each interview is for around 45 minutes to 1 hour, and they cover questions like, so basically what stands out in their interview process is they do not just ask questions about technical stuff or like CS fundamentals. They care about how you are as a person holistically, right? So they do care about your behavioral traits as much as your technical traits. So I think that was something that I focused on a lot. And I think one of my whole interview was on behavioral rounds, and one interview was technical round, and then eventually the final interview was also technical. So I think it's a good mix of computer science fundamental, but at the same time your leadership skills, your behavioral traits, your initiative, like your urge to take initiative, that also stands out a lot for them. So I think the thing that stood out for me in these interviews was I had worked a lot out of my college to work on projects, took initiative a lot in college, right? To just make my application stand out, not just in the technical aspect, but also in the aspect of making them understand that I'm not just holistic looking into the CS fundamentals, but also somebody who's an all rounder. So I think that was something that would definitely stood out for me in the interview.
Yeah, I'm sure that working continuously, being consistent in your college definitely helps in such kind of job applications. So I think our audience would love to know about your preparation strategy. What all did you do in the hackathon, and like how did you prepare for the interviews and the online assessments?
Right. So I think so when I applied for JPMC, I think that was our peak internship period. So I think I was anyway doing DSA and programming for a while. So I definitely just went through all the questions that I had done in the past and just brushed up on important topics, important data structures that JPMC definitely covers. And then I went on to some previous year questions on lead code that that JPMC had asked, but there was there were definitely questions for what JPMC had asked, but not specifically for this location. So I think that's going to be somewhat like a wild goose chase. You'll have to figure out, what important topics do you want to focus on in your last couple of days before your interview. So that is definitely one. Other than that, I prepared, some scenario based questions. So basically, they definitely asked you some behavioral questions, right? So, how did you stand out in some leadership position? What initiatives have you taken in your college? Or what was the last time you went out of your way and achieved this, right? So, all these questions are very important and they judge you based on these questions, right? So, you should have good connecting stories on how you stand out as a person, how you stand out in the application to them, and not just somebody else. So I definitely, chartered some good answers to these questions on how I have taken initiative out of college, how I have worked on some projects that elevated representation of women in technology. So all these things that they make them feel that what you're actually somebody who's not just doing this for getting into the position, but somebody who's actually cared about like technology as a whole in their university years. So I think my advice would definitely be um, obviously work on your DSA skills, but as much as on your DSA skills, definitely work on taking initiative out of college, making a holistic profile, not just DSA based, but having a more holistic and a wholesome profile rather than just focusing on the CS fundamentals. And just make sure that whatever you submit, like obviously a lot of people say that a small mistakes on resume do not matter, but they definitely do matter. So definitely give focus a lot on your resume, on what you're putting in your resume and what you need to and just chart out the course like that you would probably want to apply.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. Small mistakes do matter, and we should be careful from our end, whether while submitting all of the resume and the CV and the cover letter. So yeah, so I am sure that the application process and the interview process must be very rigorous for you. So like after getting the selection wheel, I'm sure you must be very happy. So how did you apply
Yeah.
for the visa, and what did you do after getting the selection email?
Right. So I think after you get the selection, I think it's gonna be a couple silent months because your internship is for the next summers. So I think the entire visa process was handled by the firm only, by JPMC only. So I think the visa process starts around around 90 days before actually you have to land into the country. And I think we had a good timeline for applying to visas, for applying for our biometrics, for getting the visa, etc. But I think one of the things that happened to me this year was I think a lot of people would have been aware of it. So I think the Ukraine Russia war happened around the same time that we were actually getting visas for UK, and that had delayed the process very extensively, right? So what happened was that that I got my visa 1 week before that I had to go to UK actually.
Oh my
So
God.
I had almost decided that I'm not getting my visa, and things will, the visa is definitely not coming, so might as well just start applying to companies here. But eventually, I think a lot of my friends were also in the same situation as me, and we kind of kept hope. We kind of, like, kept just talking to each other that it's going to be fine. They'll just revert with us to the visa. And eventually, in the last week before, like, I think 4 to 5 days before my flight, I got my visa decision, and then eventually I got my visa. I think 4 5 days before it, and it was like a very haphazard, like, packing and everything. But I think it's kind of like a core memory for like all 5 of us, where we remember that, what we'd actually decided, that our visa is not coming, but it just came in the last couple of days. But just these things aside, I think the whole visa process is handled by the company. You just have to appear for all your biometrics. You have to appear um, for all the sessions they, like, introduce with the visa team, and just complete everything diligently so that you do not miss anything in the step. So this is not just important for somebody who's applying for this internship, but anybody who's applying for a visa outside of India. I think this becomes important, that you, even if you're applying yourself, it's important that you apply 90 days before you're actually landing into that country, because the kind of conditions that we live in, you do not know how much delay it's going to get. So yeah.
I'm glad that you got your visa and you were able to do the internship. So you mentioned about applying companies in India. So like you must have appeared for interviews here as well. So did you notice any difference in the interview process here in India as compared to international position?
Yeah, I think there are very small, minute differences, but definitely that becomes a whole lot different when you're preparing for that company. So I think one of the things that I feel are very different while interviewing for companies, interviewing for companies internationally, is that those companies look at you as a holistic person, as somebody who's not just focused on the technical aspect of their career, but somebody who's trying to, take initiatives. Somebody who's trying to be an all rounder, not just somebody who's trying to be a technical all rounder. So I think that is something that was important, that I saw a difference in, because usually in India, when we give interviews, a very major chunk of the interviews focused on how good are your DSA skills. So I'm not denying that those DSA skills are also important in those interviews, in international interviews, but you have to be a very all-rounder type of person, so that you can, talk to them about your talk to them about things that you have taken, talk to them about things that you have, like, you started in college, or something that you have done out of just studying, right? So that becomes very important in the interview process, that to show them that you are not just somebody who's working technically. First is that. Second is, like, I definitely felt that the difficulty level in an international interview is slightly bit less as compared to in interviews in India, because I think in India we focus heavily on the DSA rounds. We focus heavily on how your competitive coding skills are, or how your good coding programming skills are. But I think when you're going abroad, when you, like, span out your international applications, it definitely matters. But I think even if you're good, even if you're doing good in other aspects of your technical part, I think that also counts as much as your technical skills. So I would say there are like small minor differences, but those minor differences definitely count a lot.
Yeah, so here we practice DSA a lot,
Yeah.
competitive programming, data structures, and algorithms. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thank you. So once you are there in Glasgow, how was your experience in a totally different country doing your internship? We would like to know how your internship experience was and how was Glasgow and everything about that.
Yeah, so I think Glasgow was actually, so I've never traveled internationally. I don't think anybody knows here, but I've never traveled internationally. So that was like the second time I've actually sat in a plane, and even domestically also, I do not travel that much. So I was definitely very scared. Like, I was in the airport and I was calling my mom, and I'm like, I don't know, should I come back or something? So it was definitely a very very different experience in the beginning, but eventually, I think once the work started, once we started exploring the city, once things become easier and smoother with work, it was a very very beautiful experience, because One, like I've never lived independently, right? So I've that became a very very important factor for me, because I learned to live alone. I learned to live independently, on how to live on your expenses, on how to, just diligently use your expenses to buy some stuff, or just take care of yourself independently. So I think that was a very very different experience for me, because I've never had that experience. Second, I think working internationally is another challenge, because you interact with people that are very very different from you, right? So I think in my office at least, so we had a lot of people with a very heavy Scottish accent, right? So it sometimes it became very difficult to interact with them, but eventually you get the pace of things. You find your forte, and you find your niche within that team. And my team was very very welcoming, very very open to ideas, very open to change. So I think that was definitely a very plus point for me, that it became very easy for me to transition into that team and understand the work eventually. So that is definitely there. And other than that, I think so it never used to feel like, this is just work. Like we are here to do just work, and this is the task that we have to complete. We used to just do our work, just to, like, have a good time. The campus recruitment team was like, they organized amazing events for us to, like, get to know the team better, to get to know them better. So it was a very very good experience. And we used to, like, chart off to, in weekends we used to go to like different places to explore different parts of UK. So I think in holistically it was a very very good experience, and definitely a very new experience for me, out of, getting to know a totally different country that probably wouldn't have been possible otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree with you. So, you mentioned about working there internationally. So, like, what team were you part of? What was your project, and like your experience in the Glasgow office of JPMC?
Yeah, I think so I specifically worked in the asset and wealth management division. So I think my team specifically worked on how do you onboard clients in asset and wealth management. So that was what where my project was around. And it was a good, like, good flow of work. So eventually we started to understand what different tools do we use within the firm. There are, like, every single company that you work for has some specific tools, some specific acronyms that they use within the firm. And it gets pretty daunting for an intern to understand them within the first go, but you eventually do understand them. So I think we was just somewhat becoming okay with the flow of the internship in the first few weeks. And I also had like one intern with me in my team only. So we used to, like, help each other out, like discuss stuff, divide the work, and just do that. And eventually I think my project was around this only, on onboarding
Mhm.
clients, and how do you, like, manage those workflow of clients. And eventually we had like a lot of basically events that were introduced by the campus recruitment team. So campus recruitment, like, had a lot of events for us in the form of, like, mid social, where we got to know a lot about the Scottish culture. And the end term social, where we celebrated the end of our internship. We also had like a corporate social responsibility day. So that was like, how you give back to the community as an employee of JP Morgan Chase. And that was like something that made me relate to that company a lot, because they actually cared about the people around them. They did not just do it something they did not just do it to, like, satisfy the quota that existed within the industry, but something that actually made me connect with them a lot. So I think there were like some very good touch points in our internship. We had a lot of evaluations as well. So the project that we were working on, we had to, like, we got evaluated at different touch points, like at like a midterm evaluation, that like an interim evaluation. So it was like a good flow of internship, how it happens in India, similarly how it happens there. But yeah, I mean, definitely did not feel like we were extensively working on something. It just felt like it just felt definitely like fun, doing working on that project.
Yeah, so completely agree with that. So a girl in a new country, completely new country. So how did you get to make connections? Like, did you face any difficulties while making and talking to people outside India? As you mentioned that you were traveling internationally for the first time. So, how did you go about that? And what was your experience making new connections? Because I'm sure you would have gone there to make new connections and get experience and exposure. So, how was your journey in that?
I think that's a very good question because that was definitely the case when I was actually going into that country. Because I definitely felt like I'm doing all of this alone, and that used to feel daunting for a while. But we had like a very like a network of like 12 to 13 interns. We were 12 to 13 interns, and we used to like regularly interact with each other. And even there as well, I think they had selected around 60 to 70 total interns within the Glasgow team, and we had formed like a big network of people that we could rely on, people that we could just hang out with and have a good time. So initially, definitely, it feels like you're like just a small person in this big country. But eventually, when you start forming a network, I formed a very good relation with my team. I still talk to them like very regularly. Um, I got in a like a very I had a good network with all the interns that went there. We attended a lot of events within JPMC that made us connect to each other. There was this particular event in JPMC that they organized for all the female interns so that they do not feel left out. So that was a very amazing event because I think they invited this very senior leadership within JPMC who are like managing directors and everything, and how they have been carrying the firms for all these years and got to interact with all those people. So that was like some turning points where I understood, where networked with these people, like made a very long lasting connection with them, even talked to them after my internship has ended, collaborate on things. So I think definitely in the beginning it feels very daunting, but eventually you find your flow, you find your way through it, so it becomes easier.
So, would you like to go back if
I
given an
mean,
opportunity?
definitely. I would definitely love to go back. I mean, the city is very beautiful. The work life balance is amazing. So it's not like the work life balance is not like um, you're working beyond your working hours, and people are like just toiling through all the work. If they have set some specific working hours, people are actually bound to follow those hours, and you know you actually start respecting that work balance culture. And that's a very very good trait I found within that company, because I've seen a lot of firms not follow that. Like people are actually extending their work life balance to just get their work done, and I think that's not healthy at all. So I think that was definitely one that I found in JPMC, that the work life balance is very very good. Other than that, the city is very beautiful. So the city is small, but the city is very very beautiful. So you would definitely like love to stay within that city and just grow as an individual. And yeah, I mean yeah, definitely, given the given the situation, would definitely love to explore more.
Yeah, of course, like everybody loves a good experience. So, what were your key takeaways from the internship, and you apply now even after getting such a good experience from JPMC? So,
Yeah.
what did you come back with?
I think there are a couple of takeaways. So I think one is how it actually changed me as a person. So I used to feel that interns in a company are somebody who are just given a task and you have to complete that task without any questions asked or any guidance or anything. But I think I was that perspective changed very holistically, because people actually within the firm uh, talk to you about your problems, talk to you if you have any problem, with things or getting familiar with things. So that becomes very easy. So your work becomes very easy, and it's very important that you talk to people within your team if you're facing some problems. So it's not like if you're an intern, you have to just do the work and come back home. You have to just form a bond network with the people around you. Second is definitely working in a new environment, working in a firm. You will work with a code base that is going to be very very huge, something that you have not probably worked with that for before. You can definitely work with some extensive codes on GitHub or etc., but working with a company code base is a whole different another ball game, right? So, and it definitely feels very difficult in the beginning, but eventually you find your way through it, because once you start understanding the code, the flow becomes easier because you start building the connections in your head. So that is definitely there. Wherever you're interning, you definitely will have to work with a large code base. So definitely keep in mind that it's okay if you feel scared in the beginning. It gets okay after a while. Um, Third is, I think, just do not. I think I think that was something that I've learned from my journey, is just do not focus on, like, just do not focus on this. Just do not focus on like your technical part. Just do not focus on the technical skills. Always focus on how you can grow as an individual and how as a holistic person. So do take initiatives, do take, participate in, do participate in activities that make you make you stand out, right? So in my during my time, I was one of the leads of Women Who Code Delhi chapter, and I organized a lot of mentorship program for women, and that was a talking point for me in my interview, because my interview connected with me on how I had, helped so many people get into DS and get into programming. So that was a definitely a very talking, definitely something that I had, like, touch point upon. So just make sure that you just grow as an individual, not just somebody who is restricted to technical aspects of their resume.
Right. So, another question for you. So, would you like to give our audience tips and tricks on how to crack such international opportunities? Because, yeah, of course, you need to prepare yourself really well to get into such kind of companies.
Yeah. So I think one would be just just always get out of your head that you will not get into that opportunity, because I think one thing that I got okay with during my time was rejections. And rejections will come in hundreds, but you just need that one yes, right? So definitely just keep applying, and do not think that I won't get into this, so what's the point of applying? Just keep applying. You will eventually, cross that barrier and get to interviews and get to crack that opportunity. So just keep that thought out of your mind, that why should I even bother applying. Second is, a lot of people think that, a lot of, like I mentioned before also, a lot of people think that small mistakes in the resume is something that, are usually looked up, are something that are not like looked after. So they are definitely looked after, because these resumes are put into an ATA software, and ATA software just tracks all these, small mistakes within your resume, and they point it out. So just make sure that you make an ATS friendly resume, and, just keep up with all the industry standards of a particular firm, in order to, like, have a very in order to have a very good resume. So good resume always counts, and if you have a good resume, you have a very very high chance of getting through at least to the online coding rounds. And I think third is, like I said, just find your niche, right? So if you want to work, so in during my time at JPMC, I was very interested also in, like, understanding the business part of the firm as well. So I told my manager about this, and we definitely, we my internship came at the intersection of software development and business, right? So just understand that what you actually feel passionate about, right? And just apply to those roles, and those roles can definitely come at the intersection of what you like and what you would like to pursue. So just start thinking about that as well. And I think other than that, definitely work on your data structures and algorithms. Without saying, that is definitely the most important part, because even if you're holistically good as a person, your technical skills will come. So definitely work on your DSA as well.
After all, it's a technical internship.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the points really make sense to me. I think everybody would be interested if you are comfortable sharing a ballpark and like if it's possible.
Yeah, so I think, so interns get like around, so there's a lot of opportunities there, where basically the interns are employed for throughout the year. So that is around 37,000 GBP for entire year, and if you're working for like 2 to 3 months, you have to break it down, so that around like 3,000 GBP per month. So
Right.
that's around like 3
So
lakhs per month. Yeah.
yeah, so that was it from us. Would you like to share some last words with our audience?
Yeah, I think just like one, like the one that I mentioned, the one that I follow as well, even today and even before JPMC. even before actually interviewing for any company, just please keep applying. Just do not get into your head thinking, I won't get into this because I lack this, or I am not capable of this, or something that just your imposter syndrome gets into your head of thinking. I come from a electronics background, and I always felt like, I'm not from computer science background. Why would they even select me? Why would they even think of interviewing me? But they do not. But mostly firms actually do not care about that. What they care about is your skills. What they care is about is what you bring to the table, what you bring to the interview. So as long as that is good enough, that is something that you have worked upon, I think it's going to be fine. So do not let the branch or the skills or anything barrier get into your head. Just apply and just keep applying and do not fear rejections.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. You should not stop yourself at least from applying to such great firms
Yeah.
and all the opportunities that come your way. So that was it for today. Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing your journey with us and all
Thank
the
you
great
so much.
achievements. All the best to you for future. To all our audience, please subscribe to Codess.Cafe YouTube channel, and you can follow us on LinkedIn for such good information sessions from great people. That is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye everyone.